What do you think about the absolute shittiest DS2 boss? Oh, that's a tough one. They're all so bad. The problem I have with DS2 is that basically not a single boss in the entire game is more notable than Iodex Gundyr, except for maybe Ivory King. I would say, I guess like Boom Knight. No, I'd say like Gundyr is kind of cooler than Boom Knight even. Like maybe you could put Boom Knight above him, I guess. Probably could. Shittiest boss would have to be like Covetous Demon, right? I mean, actually that thing eats enemies. That's fucking cool. The shittiest boss. Oh, Last Giant. That's a pretty shitty boss too. I mean, you have the double tigers like Catnip. That's fucking awful. Whoever designed that's an absolute... Like, how did Nap even do that? Does Nap even make... He doesn't make long videos of his challenge runs, which he should. Because I have no fucking clue how he did an over-encumbered run where he can't run or roll. How did he fucking make it all the way through Frigid Outskirts to do that boss? Every time he wanted to challenge a boss, he would have to cross Frigid Outskirts, walking at the speed of smell. Oh, the Last Giant. You mean like the Giant King? The Last Giant's like the first boss that's in that room, right? The Last Giant's the one where you're getting pelted by fucking trebuchets and shit when you're trying to fight him. And you need to do it. No, the shittiest boss is Vendrick. You need to do that to get enough giant souls to get enough damage to kill Vendrick. And Vendrick is fucking... Vendrick is one of the worst bosses ever, up there with like One Reborn. I guess he's not meant to be like a hard boss, but like it's so lame. Like at least just give him low health too and just like put him out of his misery, you know? Why is One Reborn on the same level as Vendrick? The problem with One Reborn is that it's a really good aesthetic boss. It's very cool narratively. It's the cosmic afterbirth of a bunch of people trying to ascend and all their bodies get fucking fused together into this disgusting Cronenberg-like thing. That's fucking sick. That is an insanely cool concept for Bloodborne that builds in the atmosphere of the game. The problem is the gameplay for that boss fucking sucks donkey dick. You basically can't understand what his limbs do or what is an attack because there's like legs kicking off it, but some of them just don't do damage. Some do and they interrupt you really annoyingly. You can't see what he's attacking with a lot of the time. Most of the time, his big attack that kills you is just spawning limbs from like a portal 2 feet above your head. Have you ever had a bunch of ankles, like feet and legs and shit fall from 2 feet above you and do 80% of your health? For like no reason. It makes no sense. Like, what kind of fucking attack is that? And then you got to do the chore of killing the bell maidens and shit. They're in the rafters. And it's just so bad to do. Like the gameplay is awful, but like everything else is sick. But like, yeah, just playing that boss. Oh, not a fun boss. Let's just say that. Vendrick makes One Reborn look like fucking Ishin. That's true. At least One Reborn is more than like literally 2 attacks, even if the attacks are weird. But like if you look at a boss like Ludwig, that's a boss that's cosmic horror and all that shit, but you can understand how his body works, you know? It's intuitive still, even though his body is really fucked up and he's got multiple limbs and shit. Ludwig is probably the best video game boss ever created, period. He just like checks every single box. He's the narratively super badass. He's the first church hunter. He's fucking sick. The transformation is like the best. It's so good. The boss does its job by telling a story during the fight. Like the fight should be part of storytelling, not just a fight like an anime fight. We're just, oh, cool fight. It does that. The transformation sequence is so good because you got 2 really good phases, but also the phase transition is really good narratively. Tells a story with the fight. The way his like moveset changes also enhances the story of that. How he like becomes like noble and shit. The whole like symbolism of him being like a horse, like a noble animal. The setting, the corpse file room with like blood and guts and bones flying everywhere when he attacks. The audio design is immaculate. The screams are blood curdling and bone chilling, nightmarish, truly god awful. The soundtrack is one of the best they have ever done. I don't think anyone would really disagree too hard with that. Like that boss checks everything you'd want of a boss. It is, except for you have to pay extra to play him. But like, yeah, honestly, I don't see a single category of like how you could classify a boss where he's not just like pretty much perfect. I would definitely put forth the opinion that Ludwig is the greatest video game boss ever created. Like, who else are you gonna say? fucking mantis lords from Hollow Knight or some shit. Fuck no. Like DS1, like I'm not in love with the bosses. Like I think Ornstein and Smo are quite overrated. I think people love the idea. I think it's just a memorable narrative boss and all that shit. DS1 is great because the world is amazing and exploring it's sick. DS2 also had pretty great vistas and cool areas. But like, I just didn't like the combat in really any of those games. Like Ornstein and Smo, it's just you trying to fight Ornstein while Smo is just spamming one running attack the whole time. You're like a fucking nuisance. I think people just like the idea of an asymmetrical duo boss. Like Demon Prince is my favorite fight, I think, in DS3. But I think people like the idea of a truly asymmetrical duo boss fight where the bosses, like movesets are complementary to each other and not like identical or like a double fight, right? Like a duo fight. I want that too. I just think Ornstein and Smo is kind of resident sleeper. Like, I mean, I don't know. Is there sick fights in DS1? Like Sif's, I guess, a cool fight. Like the bosses aren't like amazing gameplay wise, but in terms of like every other boss department, presentation, narrative importance, do they tell a story with the fight, boss, the music, the setting, the design, the visual design and audio design of the boss, that's cool shit. It's just like, you know, Quelag isn't the hardest boss ever made. Not super engaging like executionally and whatever, but like that's why I like DS1 is like the presentation and the way you explore the world is pretty cool. DS2, I like some of the vistas, like the area designs, and then DS3 is like maybe more solid combat, maybe a little too easy. The boss design is really good in DS3 compared to the other two. Way more is starting to pick up the pace, you know. A little more action-packed. Bloodborne is just balls to the walls. It kind of helps people face roll a little bit harder, which is fine. It's just, I think, too janky for me, Bloodborne, a lot of the time. Probably atmospherically the best game ever made. But like, that's the thing. The atmosphere is sometimes at the sacrifice of gameplay because Rom the Vacuous Spider into One Reborn, into Mikolash, into Murgo's Wet Nurse, which just feels like an unfinished boss, has got to be the worst string of mainline bosses in like a lot of games. Like that is terrible. Gameplay wise, you know, story wise, narratively and thematically, fighting this weird like god spider thing on a moonlit lake and like fighting this cosmic afterbirth is fucking super cool. The gameplay sucks though. Everything else about it is pretty cool. Just depends how much you value that. And then Sekiro, I'd say, is my favorite. Doesn't have invasions though. Like Elden Ring, yeah, some of the mini bosses are resident sleeper, but there's so many more unique bosses than they've ever made. And the Shardbearer bosses they've done are like some of the best bosses in the entire franchise, like their entire studio's history for sure. Most of the Shardbearers would be. Like, for example, like Renala, Elden Beast, and Ancestral Guardian Spirit, right? Not super challenging bosses gameplay-wise. They are a bit challenging gameplay-wise, which is nice. But it's more about like the atmosphere of those fights and like the experience and like telling a story with the fight and just vibing, just being a vibe. Like Elden Beast is an epilogue. Renala is like a cool, chill story boss. Ancestral Guardian Spirit is just a literal vibe. Like Elden Beast is a victory lap. It's just an audio-visual experience. Doesn't have to be the hardest boss ever made. It does a different job. That's why all the bots, there's like a good variety, right? You got Morgoth doing crazy ass combos and flowcharting. Same thing with Radahn. And then you have like Melania who just does single attacks. That's why I don't like Melania that much. I feel like she should have been a combo heavy boss, but she kind of is. Like Radahn, as he gets on, just more becomes like stringing easy to dodge cinematic attacks out rather than his crazy ass sword flowcharts that he does in phase 1, which is fine. Cinematic appeal is like a big deal to me, which is why like Rykard is one of my top 5 bosses in this game. Super easy with the fucking Serpent Hunter, but it's so awesome. It's just cool. It's a sick fight. Yeah.